Dawson Rider review.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to my review for Power Rangers Beast Morphers Season 2, Episode 16, our first post-crossover episode. Now we kind of enter more of a chunk of Fillerville, which can be kind of like coming down from a bit of a high in a way. I mean, the last episode of the crossover really wasn't that good, but I think the thing that I enjoyed most about this first half upon getting back was less actually about the crossover and more about the connectivity and flow between episodes, and that kind of tapers off a bit now. And this episode was okay. I mean, it was a Nate focus. I'm not the biggest fan of Nate, so, you know, I didn't enjoy it as much, but I think there was some decent stuff in there. Before I forget it, just to get it out of the way at the beginning, and I mentioned this in the international recording too, but I thought this was a stronger episode for Ben and Betty. I thought their antics in this one weren't as annoying, but they were a little more funny with them sort of dealing with the luggage. I think it was a little bit less of an over-the-top scenario. It didn't feel like they were intruding on anything. It felt like it flowed together a little more naturally, and I think the comedic timing of the actors and the comedic skills of the actors was able to come through more, and they just kind of let it be a little bit more natural. I think that's what kind of worked about Bulk and Skull sometimes, is they did have those over-the-top antics, but they also, you know, allowed the actors' natural comedic energy to flow within it, and I think let the comedic energy flow through you. So I wanted to bring that up at the beginning. But the basic premise was that Nate's parents come back and they offer him an opportunity to travel with them. And there's been a little bit of bits touched on here and there about Nate having some slight abandonment issues, about his parents choosing their sort of world-saving missions over him. So he's excited to see them and excited by the opportunity to possibly get to go with them. And it was nice. There was a little bit of connectivity to a character storyline that's been set up through the seasons. So I will give them props for that. And, you know, it was kind of about Nate getting a little bit more insight into the way his parents thought about this, since, you know, he was given the opportunity to go, and then he decided to, but then he decided against it because the Rangers need him. So he sort of understood where they were coming from in the past, instead of it being like, oh, well, Nate's the worst. We know, we follow Blake Foster. We know our son's the worst now, so we're actually going to stay away from him. It wasn't that at all. I mean, maybe it was that. Maybe they're just not Nate fans like me, but you know what I mean. Jokes aside, the idea was that they, you know, he came to understand that it had nothing to do with him or them being selfish. It's just they had a higher calling, and now that he has a higher calling, he sort of understood that. So I thought it was a decent character beat for that. You know, since it all takes place within this one episode, it does seem a little bit rushed of like, okay, well, you showed up today and we're going to leave today, and I needed to train an entire grid battle force to do my job in a day. Like, this actually could have been an interesting, like, ongoing story, not for the whole season, but maybe for a little chunk, because it would make more sense if he's that important for him to need to spend more time training people. Like, this being a kid's show, they're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but two things that I happen to think about is, like, again, you're probably going to want more time to have Nate get people ready, and I feel like he could easily just meet his parents wherever they were going later. Also, how is he the only one that knows how to do this stuff? In a huge organization with a huge importance on protecting the city and the Morphex, they would have more than just this little dude handling all this. So that bothered me a little bit. And then you run into that scenario, which is another pet peeve I've mentioned in past reviews, of like, when all of a sudden the Rangers are incompetent without one team member, even though, especially in 6 Ranger cases, when they were fine before they arrived. So like, that kind of bothered me a little bit, and what ended up happening was the transport system was messed up, so Nate had to bring them the weapons, and like, I like how he had to bring them himself and he couldn't send somebody else ahead. Like, he had to be the one to do it, but that's kind of what happened when he realized that they needed him. And there was also some funny stuff in this episode about Steel being like, oh, these are my parents, because, you know, I was created from Nate's DNA, so I think that had some funny moments in it. But, you know, overall, this was an average episode for me. I thought it had some okay character stuff, but since I wasn't a fan of the character, I wasn't that interested in it. But yeah, just kind of your middle-of-the-road episode. But what did you guys think of this first post-crossover episode? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can just enjoy my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.